Welcome to my Quantum Break review, and holy shit, I am so excited that the embargo is up so I can talk to you about this game. I know I said some things on social media the day after I finished the game, which was what, like a week and a half ago, that I played it in one sitting and I couldn't put the controller down, and I'm really excited that now I can finally go into detail and elaborate on what I meant by that. And in case you're worried of spoilers, do not be, for I despise spoilers as much as the next person, and I will not reveal any plot points, any character outcomes, anything like that during this review, so your brain and your ears and your eyes are safe from the evil that are spoilers. Right. Before I get into it too much, I just want to cover a few basic things with you. The first one being that you should know that I have played Quantum Break 1.5 times. Kind of self-explanatory what that means. I'm halfway through my second playthrough. The second one is that I did play in one sitting because I could not put the controller down, and so it was a lot for my mind to digest because I did sit straight for about 10 to 12 hours and just play the game. It was pretty intense, from like 5:30 in the afternoon to 5:30 in the morning. It was friggin' awesome. Completely screwed my day up the next day because I was so zombie-like, but totally worth it. The third thing that you should know is that I did play the game on easy because I am not ashamed to admit that I suck at shooters. Granted, Quantum Break does things a little differently. I can get into that a little more later. So just knowing all of that, let us press forward. Now, when I talk about Quantum Break to people, the first thing I tell them is that you should have a general understanding of how the game is laid out. It makes it easier for me to explain things to you, and hey, you should know things, or something. I don't even know. Awkward. I'm making this awkward. Okay, first thing is first is that you have your separate episodes of Quantum Break. There are 5 in total, and each episode is broken down into certain acts, right? So like episode 1, act 1, 2, 3, etc., etc. That's easy. After you complete all of the acts, you are then given a junction, which is essentially a little break from Jack Joyce, which is our main character, and you take reign of Paul Serene, who is our antagonist, and then that's kind of where you get to make the decisions that will shape the way the game, events in the game goes down. After you've done the junction, then you get to the live action part of the game where you will see, it's basically a continuation of the game, but just with real people. Got it? And because I want to avoid spoilers, I will not talk a lot about what happens during the junction scenes. That is where you are assuming the role of Paul Serene and you make decisions that impact the way this story unravels and all that great stuff. But I'm going to make up a situation in my head so I can kind of explain to you how they work. So don't worry, this has nothing to do with this game, this is a completely made up thing. So let's say you just finished the acts of episode 1 and now you are in the junction. So in this junction, you are assuming the role of Paul Serene. Now let's pretend that Paul has a friend named Susie who loves the color red. Susie is absolutely obsessed with the color red, but Paul is absolutely obsessed with the color blue. Now let's say Paul is going to get Susie a present. Now let's say he's going to buy her a ball. Now if Paul's a good friend, he's going to buy her a red ball because that's her favorite color. But if he's a douchebag, he's going to buy the blue ball because his favorite color is blue, and that's what douchebags do. They buy balls of the opposite color that their best friend likes. What? So knowing this, let's pretend that this is now a junction in Quantum Break, and if it was, this is how it would look. The game would freeze, and Paul would be staring at a red ball and a blue ball, and he knows, because of the scenario that was presented, that Susie loves red and he loves blue. So what's the right thing to do? And then that is when you come in, my friends. That is when you make the decision. So if you push LT, it'll say, oh, if I get the red ball, Susie will be my friend and she'll appreciate me so much. But that said, I'll never get my blue ball. Then if you push RT, it would said, I got Susie the blue ball and she was really disappointed in me because she knew that I knew her favorite color was red. But in the end, at least I got my blue ball. So basically how it works is that you're presented with an option and it tells you what the pros and the cons of each option are going to be before you select it. So it's not like you're just blindly making a selection, right? I guess that would have been a lot easier to say rather than going into my elaborate red ball, blue ball story, but at least you get it better now, right? Right? Now I'm really excited to hear what you guys think of the live action segment of Quantum Break, because at first I wasn't sure what to make of them. And again, so let's say now you've gone through your acts, you've gone through your junction, you've made your decision to get the blue ball or the red ball. that's gonna haunt me for the rest of my life. And now you get to see the live action. So now you're watching real people, the real actors playing out it's an extension of the game, and it's kind of showing you what the consequences are of your actions, right? Pretty self-explanatory. And When I first saw this, when the live action started playing, I really wasn't quite sure what to make of it. To be honest with you, it reminded me of watching a TV show. Now, to a lot of you, that might be a good thing. But for me, as someone who doesn't really like watching TV, it kind of turned me off at first. But I knew I just needed to give it time and I was just hoping that it was going to grow on me. And I'm pleased to say it did. By the time I got to my second live action sequence, I had grown more attached to the characters, I was more involved into the story, and it just seemed like a seamless transition from acts to junction to live action episode. And by the time the third one came around, I was eating snacks during it. It was like I was watching a movie. So I guess my advice to you is that if you're kind of turned off by the first live action segment, I just want you to know that's what happened to me. I don't want to say I was completely turned off. I was just kind of apprehensive. I was like, I don't know, this is weird. I've never seen this before in a video game. This is kind of strange. But by the time the second one came around, I was like, this is awesome. I love this so much. And actually, I'm kind of hoping it's something that the games will implement. More games will implement in the future, because I liked it. Plus, it makes me know that there's an IRL Jack Joyce out there, and I may or may not have a little crush on him. Just a little one, though. It's not a big one, just a little one. Now I want to touch a bit on the gameplay and the combat and just the meat and potatoes. Well, I don't want to say meat and potatoes. That's a bit dramatic. Just one of the best parts of Quantum Break, in my opinion, are the controls and the abilities and how the game plays. So very early on in Quantum Break, Jack will start to discover these rad powers that he can use because of things that have happened in the game. One of them will stop enemies in a time bubble. One of them allows him to kind of like skip through time and move really fast and slow down time and do a whole bunch of cool things that will help him defeat the bad guys. And if you get really fancy, you can string a whole bunch of combos together because each move has a cooldown. So if you get to know what the cooldown is, you can kind of do a whole bunch of badass things and be like, yeah, I'm the master of time manipulation, bitches. I also want to point out that even though I was playing on easy, I still felt like a fucking badass playing Quantum Break. Like, you know, using those abilities and like zipping around, like freezing bitches and slowing down time. And it was awesome. So that's something I really, really enjoyed, and I think you will too. Probably even more so if you play on the harder difficulties, because then the fights are actually going to be somewhat difficult, and you actually have to know what you're doing to survive. Unlike me, who was able just to like spout off anything I wanted to do and still survive because I was playing on easy mode. No shame. Now usually this is where I would say let's talk about the story, but we're not going to because I'm not going to spoil anything for you. Because like I said, I played Quantum Break in one sitting because I could not put down the controller because I was so absorbed in the story. So absorbed. So all you need to know, friends, is that you are Jack Joyce and some shit is going down. That's all you get from me. Now related to the story, there is one thing I cannot stress enough about this game. When you are playing it, you absolutely must search for every email, document, letter, anything that you can find scattered throughout the game. They're everywhere, and they're not hard to find. I mean, if you get close enough to one, a little like prompt will show up, and you'll be able to walk over there and press X or whatever it was to read the document. But by all means, you must read everything you find. These documents contain a lot of vital information to the story, specifically when you come to the junctions and you are faced with two really hard decisions. If you are armed with that knowledge that you have gained from the documents and emails and all that kind of stuff, it will help you make your decision, and it does provide a lot more insight that you otherwise would not have. So yes, read things. And they're well written and they're entertaining. And there are 2 or 3 series of a certain email thread in the game that seriously had me rolling from laughter. Like, I had tears rolling down my eyes. It's really funny. I think you'll know it once you see it. I'll just leave it at that. If you want to know what I'm talking about, just hit me up privately and I'll tell you. Just to wrap up on the story, I just want to say that it is pretty easy to follow, even if you're not. I think a lot of people that I've talked to, and this has actually surprised me, have been kind of intimidated by Quantum Break because they think the game is going to be full of a bunch of like physics lingo and they're not going to know what's going on, they can't follow the story. Don't worry about that. I mean, if you know nothing about physics, you'll still be able to follow it. If you know a ton about physics, you'll kind of nerd out a bit because it's a really cool concept of what happens in the game. There are a few moments, though, in the game, that I just have to point this out, that are kind of like, really? Like, did that really just happen? Because that is so unlikely, and that is so just not feasible or plausible or whatever word you want to use. But thankfully, those moments that do happen, I can only think of like 1 or 2, and they are not integral parts of the game. I don't want to say anything more than that, so it's not like, you know, you're following this amazing story and then it just comes to a stop because something really stupid happened. It's not like that at all. It's just a few parts that happen in non-integral moments that it kind of had me scratching my head a bit. But other than that, I have no complaints. The characters. Let's talk about the characters. What am I doing besides being really fucking weird? Now, like the story, I do not want to go deep at all into these characters. That sounds way more sexual than I intended it to, because the characters are what... The characters are basically the story. Like, I can't... So with that said, I do want to say that Quantum Break does consist of a lot of interesting characters, and what's really neat about what Remedy has done is that they have made a cast that you can't ever really tell if they're good or they're evil. And what I mean by that is that they all have their own motives and they all have their own motivations, and you are made well aware of what those are by the time the game is over. And so you're like, oh, so that's why that person did this and that's why this person did that, which really helps out with replay value because you have the junctions as well and you can make different decisions. Anyway, completely going off track. The characters are good. My problem is that, and this isn't really a problem, I don't know if I would classify this as a problem because it's kind of a good thing, is I wanted more from them. I wanted more banter. I wanted more side quips. I wanted a deeper look into their personality, into who they were. Because a lot of the conversations is that these characters have are very straightforward, very like down to the point, which makes sense from a story standpoint because shit's going down, and I understand you don't have time to talk about that family picnic you took last week. But for me, I would have enjoyed a little bit more depth from them in terms of like side banter and like kind of that stuff. I also want to point out that the characters have some of the best like facial and body animations that I've ever seen before. I mean, like everything from little mannerisms to like hand movements. It's really good, really good. And like watching their face when they talk. I don't know why I felt the need to highlight the face. I think we all know what a face is, but just little things like that I really pay attention to was awesome. Well guys, I don't think I have much more to say about Quantum Break other than I absolutely loved it. I mean, I couldn't put down the controller. I literally could not put it down, which is insane. That doesn't happen. That hasn't happened to me in a very, very, very long time, let alone the fact that I'm now halfway through my second playthrough. Like, I don't have a lot of free time, and the fact that I am wanting to play Quantum Break again right after finishing it, I think kind of speaks for itself. For me, it had the perfect mix of action, gameplay, but also story and exploration. Every environment I encountered was like alive and thriving, and I never felt like I was in a dead zone. I didn't talk about that at all before, but that is something I wanted to bring up, so please note that as well. So yeah, I don't think there's much more I can say other than, again, I really enjoyed it. I think you guys will too, especially if you love story and fun gameplay. Give it a shot. You have nothing to lose. I think this is just a really great game, and I really enjoyed it. Again, how many times have I said that? I enjoyed it a lot. Thank you for watching, and if you have any other questions for me, feel free to hit me up on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. All the links are below, so you know where to find me. You know where to find me.